I never expected my brother, who called me a family failure, to be silenced by my Forbes cover. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension. My heart raced as the announcement echoed in my ears. I stood there trembling. In that moment my world shifted. It was supposed to be a celebration. My name next to the likes of industry giants. But the weight of his words cut deeper than any article ever could. My brother Derek had always been the perfect son. The golden boy. The one everyone believed in. While I struggled, he soared. "You'll never be enough," he'd scoffed, the coldness in his voice freezing my skin. My family was a storm of emotions, love tangled with resentment. They either praised my achievements or cast shadows on my failures. And Derek? He was always there, lurking like a storm cloud ready to unleash rain. But this time it felt different. I could see the disbelief on my parents' faces when I showed them the magazine. The glossy paper that felt heavier than lead. It shimmered under the kitchen lights, beautiful yet brutal. "Did you really do this?" My mom whispered, her eyes wide. My heart sank. In that moment I saw Derek's face twist in a mixture of anger and astonishment. He didn't speak, but I felt his silent shame envelop the room. It was like watching a tide pull back, leaving everything barren. I held my breath, waiting for him to explode. Instead, he just backed away, the shattering silence suffocating. Then came the unexpected twist. A faint vibration in my pocket. It was a message from him. My eyes flicked to my phone. My hands trembled as I opened it. Just 2 words. "Never again." My stomach dropped. What did that mean? How far was he willing to go to make me pay for my success? I looked around the room. The silence was heavy, like the calm before a storm. I could hear my heart pounding. Every moment felt stretched, suspense hanging thick in the air. There was so much unsaid, a bundle of secrets waiting to unravel. What would he do next? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The next morning I woke with a knot in my stomach. The message from Derek still buzzing in my mind. Never again. I didn't want to read it 1,000 times, but my eyes kept drifting back to that screen, desperate to decipher its meaning. Had I crossed a line? Was there something beneath those words that I was too afraid to confront? As I sat at the kitchen table, the same breakfast routine now disrupted by an unseen fissure, my mom poured cereal. Her eyes were heavy, red-rimmed, as if she hadn't slept. I wanted to reach out to her, to bridge the widening gap of discontent that had sprouted in our family. But the silence felt like a wall I couldn't climb. My dad, typically the grounding force, merely took a deep breath and read the morning paper, pretending not to notice the tension that lingered like a dark cloud as I stared into my bowl. The food turned into an abstract painting of my fragmented thoughts, twisted emotions, abandonment, and unmet expectations all swirled together. I could hear my brother's laughter echo in the hallways, never intended to tease, always amplifying my failures. The laughter that was supposed to bind us now felt like an accusation. I decided to go for a walk, hoping the fresh air might clear my head. I stepped outside and wrapped my arms around myself as a chilly breeze nipped at my skin. My neighborhood buzzed with early morning life, kids playing, parents chatting, but inside me chaos reigned. I walked aimlessly, my feet carrying me past the coffee shop where I used to meet Derek and discuss our dreams. The memories flooded back. How naive we were, so certain of our paths. As I turned the corner, I bumped into Lily, an old friend from high school. Her bright smile momentarily chased away the storm in my heart. "Hey, it's been ages," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm infecting my gloom. "Yeah, it has," I managed, forcing a smile I didn't quite feel. "Congratulations on the cover." She beamed, and even though I appreciated the compliment, I couldn't escape the weight of my brother's ire. "You've always been incredible. People just don't see the hard work behind the scenes." "Thanks," I mumbled, my voice barely above a whisper. Over the next few minutes we fell back into an easy chatter about life post-high school, her job, college adventures, and the occasional poke at my family's dynamics. You're their pride, you know that, right? Just because Derek seems perfect it doesn't mean you're any less deserving, she reminded me, her voice steady and reassuring. As we parted ways, Lily's words resonated within me, a flickering flame of hope amidst the raging storm. Maybe I wasn't entirely alone in this battle for validation. Perhaps I had to hold on to that light, to forge ahead despite the shadows behind me. Later that day, I returned home, ready to face the chaos that awaited. As I stepped into the house, I heard Derek's voice rising from the living room, mingling with my parents' anxious tones. I froze at the entrance, every instinct urging me to retreat. The way my name cut through the air made it clear they were discussing me. Curiosity surged within, battling the fear. I tiptoed closer, straining to hear the conversation. You're not understanding, Derek. She deserves this. You need to support her. My mom's voice was firm, but a tremor lurked beneath her words. I can't stand by while she basks in the glory we all know is superficial. Derek replied, rage and hurt saturating his tone. She'll fall. Just give it time. Just as my heart felt like it would shatter into a million pieces, something unexpected happened. The door creaked open, revealing a stranger clad in a delivery uniform, a large box cradled in his arms. Delivery for a Miss Harper? He called. My father stood from the couch, moving to greet the man, while my breath hitched at the thought of what was inside that box. I had a sinking feeling I wasn't ready for what was next. What now? I murmured to myself, dreading yet another mark of judgment that was surely tied to Derek's premonition of failure. As the delivery man placed the sturdy cardboard box onto the table, my heart quickened, and Derek's bewildered expression mirrored my own anxiety. I couldn't help but feel it was the last straw about to snap. My father carefully peeled back the flaps, and as he opened the box, a small folded note slipped out. My eyes widened as he lifted the lid, revealing a strange assortment of framed photographs, each capturing moments of my life, moments I thought were buried and forgotten. Tucked among the photos was a small package, and with shaking hands I reached for it. When I lifted the object into the light, shock washed over me, a silver pendant gleaming with an inscription that read, "You are enough. Always." Who had sent this? And then the room sank into silence. Derek's gaze met mine, confusion morphing into recognition. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. Was this a gesture of kindness? Or a mocking reminder of everything I feared? The truth flickered like a candle in a storm, and just as I felt the first inkling of hope, I turned the pendant over, revealing a familiar symbol etched into the Silvera family crest, one that connected me to an unexpected part of my past. The questions swirled, my heart clenched with uncertainty. Who had reached out to me? And what else did they know that could unravel the fragile tapestry of my life? As the silence stretched in the living room, heavy and unyielding, I felt the weight of everyone's scrutiny focused squarely on me. My father, Derek, and my mother stood silently, a tableau of shock, anger, and confusion. In that frozen moment, my fingers traced the cool surface of the pendant. You are enough. Always. Those words reverberated through me, battling against the suffocating layers of self-doubt and despair that had recently settled like a fog in my mind. Derek was the first to break the silence. Where did you get that? He demanded, his tone sharp and accusatory, like glass shards cutting into my fragile hope. The earlier flicker of kindness now morphed into a weapon, one I wasn't sure how to deflect. Point two, don't know, I stammered, guilt curling around my heart like a vine. The crest on the back felt like both an invitation and a challenge, one that could lead to a truth I wasn't prepared to face. Came with the pictures. Someone must have sent them. Someone? Who? He pressed, his frustration boiling over into a storm of accusations. Is this some kind of sick joke? Do you even understand what this means? Why show you these memories if they promised nothing but failure? His words nestled themselves within me, the sting of their truth echoing too loudly. The memory of those photographs haunted the corners of my mind, the laughter, the innocence, the moments of family unity now tainted by the fissures that ran through us. It doesn't have to mean anything. I shot back defensively, my voice shaking as I fought to reclaim my power. Maybe it's just, I don't know, a reminder? Something good. I don't think you understand the implications, Derek sneered, crossing his arms tightly over his chest. each breath radiating frustration. Every moment in those photos is a tick mark on your path to disappointment. You're grappling for validation in a world that will leave you stranded the moment you slip. Stop it! My mother interjected sharply, her voice cracking under the weight of unshed tears. This is ridiculous. We need to be supporting each other, not tearing one another apart. Her words hung in the air like a fragile truce, but Derek wasn't ready to back down. You don't get it. Every time we circle this drain of encouragement, it's like we're ignoring the truth. She knows she isn't good enough. His words felt like daggers, exposing raw wounds I'd tried to bury beneath layers of ambition and achievement. I wanted to scream to tell him he was wrong, that he didn't understand how real my fear of failure was, how it crept into every dream I'd ever chased, cloaked in the shadows of my brother's judgment. Instead, I took a deep breath, feeling the pendant's cool metal pulsing against my skin, grounding me. I received this gift for a reason, Derek, I said softly, my voice steadier than I felt. Maybe it's a sign that I need to discover who I am beyond what you think of me, and what I think of myself. The tension in the room shifted, palpable as a different kind of awareness began to seep in. My father finally interjected, his voice deep and resonant. Enough, he instructed, cutting through the turmoil. We've been tearing at each other like wild animals, thinking that love means being right. It's time we start listening for once. For a moment I could see a flicker of something in Derek's eyes. Was it regret? Complicated emotions wrestled within me, threatening to break the facade of the perfect brother I had long idolized. I turned the pendant in my fingers, contemplating how it now seemed to hold more weight than anything I had imagined. This was a bridge to a past I barely understood, one that connected me to a lineage of strength and struggle. Who had sent this? I wanted to know, needed to know before the shadows overtook the light entirely. Just as I pushed back against the tide of my thoughts, a sudden buzzing from my phone in the other room snapped me back into the present. I excused myself, eager for any reprieve from the brewing storm of confrontation. After glancing at the screen, my heart skipped a beat as I saw the name that came flashing across it. Grandma Alice. I hadn't heard from her in weeks, not since she had dropped hints of some family history I had yet to discover. The last text had left me reeling with uncertainty, muffled stories of abandonment and mystery that had danced just beyond my reach. Mom! It's Grandma! I shouted, my voice suddenly tinged with urgency and hope. But as I rushed to answer, another wave of uncertainty crashed over me. What if she had news that confirmed Derek's worst fears? What if she decided now was the time to unravel the very threads I was desperately trying to weave into a coherent narrative of strength? The moment my finger hit answer, the voice on the other end shifted the very ground beneath me. Sweetheart, we need to talk, she began, her tone imbued with an urgency that sent a jolt through my veins. There are things about our family you still don't know, and time isn't on our side. With those words hanging heavy in the air, an intricate tapestry of secrets began to unravel, and my heart raced. What had I gotten myself into, and who else would it affect? The breath caught in my throat at Grandma Alice's words, and the reality of my situation rushed in like an unstoppable tide. I was deep within the storm of my family's tumultuous emotions, and now with just a few phrases, she had thrown me another curveball and I wasn't sure I could navigate. Time isn't on our side. Grandma, what do you mean? What's going on? I asked, my voice trembling with impatience, buoyed by an urgency that coursed through me. I needed clarity, but would clarity come wrapped in more pain? Meet me at our spot, at the old tree by the river, she urged, the worry in her voice chasing away my earlier anticipation. You'll understand why when you get here. I felt a seed of dread planting itself in my gut. The old tree by the river, our sacred place where we used to sit for hours, immersed in stories of the past and our dreams for the future. But beneath that childhood nostalgia now lay the skeletons of family secrets waiting to be exhumed. Okay, it'll be there soon, I managed to reply, a reluctant promise that felt as shaky as my resolve. I could feel Derek and my parents' eyes burning into me, the emotional abyss from our recent confrontation still casting its shadow across my heart. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to absolve myself from the discomfort that we had all just begun to confront. But I had no choice. Grandma's call was a lifelinito, the truth, to myself, to a pathway forward even if I couldn't see where it led. As I left the house I grabbed my jacket, then hesitated for a moment. Looking back felt like gazing into a tempest, But I knew I had to walk into the unknown. Each step away from the home I'd always known felt like a stain upon the fabric of our family, yet I felt it was necessary, an unwinding of deeply stitched threads to uncover their stitches. The air outside was heavy, thick with the impending scent of rain. My thoughts raced faster than my feet, weaving through the tangled memories of my childhood, my brother's dismissals, and the uncharted wisdom my grandmother promised. I crossed the distance to the river, my heart pounding in rhythm with my footsteps. Every shadow cast by the ancient trees brought the echoes of our family's harsh whispers to mind. When I arrived at the old tree, I scanned the area for signs of my grandmother. The anticipation was a mix of excitement and dread, a palpable tension that gripped me. As I turned my head, I spotted her silhouette through the foliage, the soft glow of the evening sun casting an ethereal light around her. "Grandma," I breathed, the rush of relief mingling with the apprehension swirling inside me. As she approached, I noted the lines etched deep into her skin, each one a testament to the stories she carried. "Sweetheart, I'm so glad you came," she said, her voice trembling slightly. There was weight in her gaze, so much history, so many memories that danced just beyond her lips but remained unspoken. "I know things have been difficult. Your family, they're still grappling. But you're at an important juncture in your life." "What do you mean?" I asked, my heart quickening. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to reveal something that would change everything I believed about myself and my family. "It's about the family you never knew, the things we kept hidden to protect you. There are truths that could reshape the way you view yourself and your brother, especially regarding how he sees you." A shiver ran down my spine as a sense of dread settled in my stomach. The layered nuances of Derek's harsh words suddenly felt like shadows, merging with the worries I had long tried to avoid. "Please tell me," I urged. "Whatever it is, I have to know." Grandma's expression shifted, a mix of sadness and resolve. "You're not a failure. It's time you understand that what you perceive as shadows might just be the reflections of our own burdens." She began sharing fragments of our family history. The words unfurled one after another, a struggle with identity, betrayal, and a tapestry woven with threads of resilience. With each revelation, I felt both the weight of her love and the burden of untold stories pressing against me. But just when she mentioned a name that echoed in the chambers of my memory, a familiar roar broke through the atmosphere like a thunderclap. Derek appeared at the edge of the clearing, his expression a mix of bewilderment and anger, eyes ablaze with an intensity one had never seen. "Why are you here?" he shouted, cutting through our intimate moment like a knife. "I thought you were going to figure things out instead of playing this twisted game." "Derek, this is about our family," I shouted back, confronting the collision of worlds now standing in one place. His eyes were wild, narrowing as he attempted to process both his emotions and the presence of our grandmother. "You don't know what you're getting into," he cried back, his voice echoing with layers of fear and desperation. On the other hand, Grandma stepped forward, surprising us both. "He deserves to know, Derek. We can't keep sweeping the past under the rug, no matter how painful." The silence that followed was deafening, the expectation hanging like a tightrope in the air. Derek's gaze flickered between my pleading expression and the determined resolve in Grandma's. It split worlds, and I could see the cracks beginning to form in the armored wall he had built around his heart. But before either of us could speak, Grandma added softly, "There are secrets that bind our souls, Derek. It's time you reconcile how those secrets intertwine with who you are." And in that moment, a glimmer of truth met the eye of the storm, but it wasn't enough to diffuse the standoff. Derek's expression hardened, chased by a shadow of vulnerability. Flooded with anger and confusion, he shouted, "You can't just decide that. You think the past will make things better?" With those words, everything within me stilled, every heartbeat synchronizing with the tremors of uncertainty, and I felt the world teeter on the brink of pain yet to be revealed. My heart raced as I tried to grasp the gravity of the situation, sensing that the depths of this moment would unravel lives and lay bare hidden scars. "Tell me the truth, and then let me decide," Derek shouted, his voice taut like a bowstring ready to snap. As Grandma's lips parted to speak, I could feel the ground beneath me shift, and the anticipation of revelation wound tightly in the air. The tremors of family turmoil ready to erupt into something immeasurable. In our solemn circle, we were bound by more than love and conflict. We were bound by truths that had lurked beneath the surface, eager for release. What would Grandma say, and would it sever the fraying threads that held us together or weave an unexpected fabric of healing amidst all that had shattered? Just as we leaned closer, a dark shadow loomed at the edge of the clearing, casting uncertainty over everything that lay waiting to unfold. As the shadows thickened around us, an unexpected figure emerged, crystallizing my worst fears into a sharp reality. The rustle of leaves and the soft padding of footsteps drew my eye, and in an instant I recognized her, Jessica, a friend of Derek's since childhood, the one person I never wanted to see today. Her ominous presence felt like a gust of cold air that snuffed out the flicker of hope that had ignited in me moments before. "Derek, you need to hear this," she said, striding confidently towards us, her expression a blend of concern and defiance. "You're making the biggest mistake of your life." The anger in his eyes shifted momentarily to confusion, creating a crack in the iron mask he'd worn so tightly. "What are you talking about?" he snapped, yet beneath the surface, I sensed an ember of fear flickering to life. Inwardly, I cursed fate for bringing Jessica to our already chaotic family confrontation. She had a tendency to inflame situations, whether deliberately or with reckless abandon. I could practically feel Grandma's apprehension radiating from her, but there wasn't a way for me to intervene without igniting more flames. "Just listen to Grandma, Derek," I urged, the weight of my own frustration spilling out, longing for this to end, longing for clarity. "We're trying to uncover the truth. You can't keep hiding from it." Jessica stepped closer to Derek, her presence hovering like a storm cloud overhead. "The truth? You think you're ready for that? You think it will make everything okay?" Her words dripped with sarcasm, prompting my insides to twist tighter. "Why do you care?" I shot back, frustration mingling with a sense of betrayal. Did she really intend to wade into our turmoil, dredging up conflict when we were on the verge of something monumental? Before she could respond, Derek paused, glancing between us. The air crackled with tension as confusion and anger warred in his eyes. "What about the truth?" he demanded. "What do you know?" "I know more than you realize," Jessica replied, leaning in as if to share a secret befitting a conspiratorial thriller. "And I know you don't want to hear it, but you're not as alone as you think. You have to understand this isn't just about you and your sister." Grandma stepped forward, her concern morphing into a quiet intensity. "Jessica, not now. This is a family matter." But Jessica persisted. "Family? Is that what you want to call it? A family that hides its darkest parts and only pretends to care when it's convenient? Derek, do you really think you are the only one who's struggled? You're not the only one carrying this burden." Derek's expression hardened, his fists clenching. "Stop it," he yelled, glancing almost pleadingly at me, his defenses beginning to fracture under the weight of sudden vulnerability. "You don't know anything about what I carry." At that moment, as tension swirled, everything froze. My heart raced as I watched the delicate facade begin to crack. I had spent so long trying to bridge the divide between us, to help him see that he wasn't a failure, but rather overshadowed by a lineage of pain. Now here was the opportunity, yet it felt tainted by the sharpness of Jessica's intrusion. "I know what you want to hide," Jessica said, lowering her voice, drawing Derek's focus back to her. "But running from the truth won't erase the shadows of your past. It's time to face it. What do you know?" Derek's voice wavered slightly, the cracks in his armor widening as if he had unclasped an emotional door he never intended to open. "I know about your mother," she bit out, her words landing like boulders upon our bruised spirits. "I know what happened before you even existed, and the secrets that were buried long before you drew breath." Shock washed over Derek's face, mingling with anger and grief. I felt as if my world was tilting on its axis, and I could hardly breathe against the gale force of new revelations that twisted through the clearing. "What are you talking about?" Grandma made a sharp intake of breath, eyes darting to me. I realized she had seen the storm brewing, sensed the way Jessica stirred the pot, and feared that the revelations we were so close to uncovering would be warped by external narratives. "Jessica, this is not the time, it is the time. You can't keep pretending that the past doesn't exist," she interrupted, lifting her chin defiantly. "The truth will always come to light, and it's high time that someone forces you all to face it." Derek's breath came in quick bursts, each inhalation laced with confusion and mounting fury. "What truth?" "I'm tired of this, tired of running." The raw emotion spilling from him startled me. I reached out instinctively, bridging the distance. "Derek," I whispered, "don't let her control this. She's just trying to provoke you." But deep down I felt the tremors. A part of me knew that whatever was unearthed had the potential to change everything. The struggle between familial loyalty and painful truths felt overwhelming, but the universe had already begun its unraveling. Jessica's eyes seemed to pierce through the haze and fixate upon Derek. You think you've been abandoned? You think you're the only one struggling to be seen, to be validated? Your family's burden goes deeper than you or even you two realize. Want me to prove it? Before I could implore them to hush, before I could shield myself from the fallout, the words fled Jessica's lips like unwelcome omens. Your father didn't just leave to find himself. He was chasing something darker. The stories. They weren't just tales. They were warnings. Stop, Derek thundered, forcing the word through gritted teeth. I don't want to know. I don't care about his reasons. No, but you deserve to, Jessica retorted, her bluntness astonishing me. The truth about your family doesn't let you walk away that easily. The past has a way of finding you in that moment. I sensed the floor beneath our emotional storm tremble, and with each tremor deeper ramifications unfurled within our hearts. I wanted to shield my brother from the hurt and confusion, but the truth held a power of its own, a fiery raw force driving us toward inevitable confrontation. But as the final embers of confrontation consumed us, I felt the tremors within shift weight. What if the truth that lay buried in the murky depths of our family history could either liberate Derek or decimate him entirely? And as Jessica took a step forward, the shadows loomed ever closer, feeding on our indecision and fear. What had we embraced and what might we lose? The air felt heavier as the weight of Jessica's words lingered, and an invasive chill seeped into the marrow of my bones. The once familiar forest clearing now felt foreign, rife with fraught energy, resonating with unspoken tensions. Derek stood frozen in a mix of disbelief and fury, his breath rapid as if he were struggling to reclaim ground lost in this unexpected battle of truths. Derek, don't listen to her, I pleaded, taking a small step toward him, my heart racing with fear for what could unfold. We can talk this out together, but his eyes were racing, searching for anchors in this storm. You're not hearing her, Derek snapped, an edge of desperation worming its way into his voice. She's saying it's our fault that we're tied to something monstrous. He could barely meet my gaze, a flicker of shame hiding beneath the surface, like an unwelcome guest lurking beneath the bed. I didn't choose this, he whispered, and the admission hung between us like a dark cloud threatening to burst. His fists trembled at his sides, clenched hard enough to draw crimson lines into his palms. I took a step back, my heart aching for him. Somewhere deep down, I understood the inexplicable guilt that seeped into his veins, a complex tapestry, sewn from family secrets and expectations that bound him tighter than chains. Jessica, you don't know what you're doing, I snapped, emboldened by a desperate need to protect my brother from what lay just beyond the thresholds of our understanding. Can't you see this isn't about proving points? This is about him. About us. But she merely shrugged, almost resentfully. Then let him make his choice. But trust me, running will only bury you deeper. You think it's easy to face the shadows? I've fought my own battles and they nearly consumed me. Derek let out a shaky breath, as if the truth of his past bellowed across the spectral expanse like an unforgiving siren. Grandma slipped closer, though her eyes were wide with unmasked anticipation. The expressions we wore were crafted masks, each hiding more than they revealed. There were terrible choices made, she finally said, her voice quivering like fragile autumn leaves. And terrible consequences. But it's not solely your burden to carry, Derek. Please, he spun around, eyes ablaze with untamed energy. So what? I'm just supposed to keep carrying what's already eaten away at all of us? At what point do I get to say enough is enough? Silence engulfed the clearing, as the woodland creatures similarly held their breath, waiting for the next act in this still uneasy drama. My mind spiraled through the years we'd spent looking over our shoulders, always skating on the fringes of something larger than ourselves, unaware of the shadows that loomed over us. Derek, I said, cautiously approaching again, it's not just you. We can carry this together. We're family. We've always been tangled in this web of hurt and hope. But Jessica interjected, her voice slicing through the tension with unnerving clarity. Maybe it's time for you to understand what that truly means. Have you ever stopped to think that family doesn't always mean you have to sweep things under the rug just to keep the peace? Stop, Derek repeated, his eyes darting between the two of us. I don't want a family like that. I don't want to talk about this anymore. The rejection stung. Each of Jessica's revelations felt like a lit match thrown toward our already smoldering bonds. I felt a growing rage towards her for weaponizing our family's anguish. Yet there was also a tiny spark of understanding. We were all prisoners of the past, grappling with specters only a few dared to face. Derek, I urged, halting as a tremor crossed his features. You don't have to carry this alone, but you need to decide. Do you want closure? Or do you want to continue letting the weight of this darkness crush you? As the quiet slid between us, I noticed Jessica's rigid posture soften for but a moment. For a fleeting heartbeat, I glimpsed something akin to compassion cross her features, revealing a vulnerability I hadn't expected from her. But before I could quantify that flicker, she resumed her role, hardening her resolve. Closure means facing the monsters, she asserted with unwavering fierceness. Staying quiet will only ensure they grow larger, Derek. You have more people in your corner than you realize. You can't escape blood ties, and it's time you realize the truth that has been shackling you. Derek's chest heaved as he inhaled sharply, the heat of emotion seeping further into our secluded sanctuary. He seemed caught in a limbo, and as I gazed into his troubled eyes, I felt a fragile connection surge between us. This isn't just about your father, I urged, probing gently. It's about us confronting those ties together, even if it terrifies us. Maybe it terrifies you, he scoffed. I can't do this, and I can't bear to watch you choose darkness over light, I exclaimed, my voice rising above the overwhelming tide of uncertainty. Then you don't understand what's at stake, he rasped, and in that moment, I saw a glint of betrayal, mingled with heartbreak and uncertainty, etched into his expression. What if confronting my past means losing everything I thought I knew? Without warning, the very ground beneath us quivered with a sudden shudder, making us falter mid-confrontation. I felt my heart racing as I looked skyward, sensing that something beyond our tumultuous reckoning was brewing, with the clouds gathering ominously above. Then, as if the heavens themselves had chosen that exact moment to intervene, a resounding crack echoed through the clearing, and an aged branch, weak from years of suppressing its growth beneath the layers of unspoken history, finally snapped. It hurtled toward the ground, splitting the air like a roaring beast unleashed, a jagged reminder of the chaos we waded into that very moment. Derek flinched, instinctively taking a step back, and that seemingly small movement shifted the ground beneath us, tossing me forward as I fell to the forest floor. All I could think was how our lives had become tangled in this ceaseless storm, and whether I could ever truly protect him from the shattering revelations that loomed darkly in our shared past. And just as I braced myself for the impact, an unforeseen flicker flickered somewhere in the distant, an unfamiliar warmth amidst the rift of our familial chaos. It beckoned, suggesting hope hidden in the form of understanding. But would we find what we needed, or would the darkness dismantle us first? The chill in the air was nothing compared to the icy grip of fear that had cemented around my heart as I lay on the ground, the soft forest floor brushing against my skin. Derek's confused expression morphed into panic as he reached to help me up, his warrior resolve crumbling amidst this new wave of chaos. Are you okay? He asked, the tension in his voice betraying his worry. I nodded, though our eyes held a tumultuous storm that neither of us dared to voice. The clearing pulsed around us, silence momentarily replacing the anxious cacophony of our earlier confrontation. The equanimity felt as fragile as the branches that lined the canopy above us, threatening to shatter under the weight of our unresolved issues. I didn't mean to. Jessica's voice cut through the quiet, layered with unexpected remorse. What just happened? Stop, Derek interjected, brushing his fingers against my arm with urgency, grounding himself in that fleeting touch. We don't have time for blame or apologies. It's getting worse, isn't it? The horizon was painted in billowing shadows, a reflection of the dread we all felt while permeating the forest like a living entity. It seemed to whisper the secrets we were too afraid to confront, imbued with the knowledge of how deep our entanglements went. There's a storm coming, I murmured, transfixed on the swirling clouds. We need to figure this out together. Derek crouched beside me, his expression a mix of vulnerability and determination, as if he were weighing the alternatives of darkness against the promise of light. What if none of us are ready? We've spent our lives avoiding our truth, and it's all crashing down now, first in storms, and then potentially in ways we can't even anticipate. Every word resonated with an ache, my chest tightening under the weight of realization. This was as much about Derek as it was about me, about us. Our choices, the silhouettes of our pasts looming larger than life, were expertly woven into the fabric of our relationship. The ground rumbled again, echoing his indecision and our collective fears. What if we lose each other in finding what's true? Then maybe we're not truly lost, Jessica whispered, her voice softer than before, stripped of the icy armor she had worn before. Maybe being lost means acquiring the courage to forge ahead and releasing the burdens of the past. I searched her face, feeling an unexpected twinge of empathy for the struggles she too was overcoming. And what if losing means finding strength in our pain? None of us could formulate an answer, for how could we accurately express such profound truths when the shadows of our family history tangled around our throats? Derek turned to me, his eyes glistening like shards of hope in the dim light. What if we hold each other accountable? He hesitated before extending a hand, a lifeline against the cold grip threatening to drown us in darkness. I grasped it, feeling a warmth that challenged the bitter wind swirling around us each day as moments morphed into memories. I saw a flicker of understanding pass between Jessica and Derek, two lives converging in light. It carved pathways of kindness through the bitter remnants of anger, surfacing beneath our once frayed connections. Then, just as hope began to spark in the depths of my being, a loud crack broke through the air, echoing louder this time. The skies darkened, filled with a flickering light that seemed to usher in an all-encompassing heaviness. What was that? I gasped, the thrum of intensity in the air overwhelming. Derek's grip tightened over mine as he turned to Jessica. It's not just our fear that's growing, is it? Before she could respond, the ground erupted beneath us, a blinding shimmer slicing through the twilight, bringing forth whispers of premonition. A hidden force surged through the clearing, wrapping us in its embrace, freezing our ability to act or even breathe. In that moment, a tangible electricity crackled in the air as if the universe itself was imploding, demanding acknowledgement of regrets too long buried. And just before everything abruptly spiraled into chaos, an image crystallized before me, a revelation looming on the horizon, imbued with urgency. All this time it wasn't just our family we were meant to confront. I realized, my voice barely escaping my lips as light washed over my consciousness like a tidal wave. Something darker. Something bigger. As the tremors subsided, a shadow detached itself from the trees edging the clearing, a spectral figure lean and distorted, yet unmistakably human, materialized with haunting grace. My pulse raced, terror coiling within me. This was not simply a conflict of kinship. It was a reckoning. With a voice that echoed through the forest, charismatic and chilling, it spoke my brother's name with a chilling familiarity. Derek, you've been summoned. As the world around us darkened, and uncertainty seeped back into our collective hearts, I could feel the monumental weight of shifting tides. Would we be capable of facing the truth we desperately tried to avoid? Or were we merely players in a game engineered long before our existence? And abruptly, the narrative shifted again, leaving us tangled deeper in the shadows of our family's legacy, and each heartbeat echoed with the frantic urgency of an impending storm. The air turned electric, thick with unspoken words and a tension that seemed to stretch endlessly between us. Derek stiffened at the spectral figure's voice, muscles tightening as if bracing against a storm that had only just begun to unfurl. Jessica took a hesitant step back, her eyes wide with disbelief. What does that mean? Summoned? Her voice trembled, caught between fear and the instinct to flee. The shadows deepened around us as the ethereal figure flickered like a flame, teasing the edges of reality while drawing forth our deepest doubts. The grim details of our past began to swirl chaotically in my mind, yet a haunting clarity pierced through the fog of panic. I had learned long ago that darkness often clawed at the edges of our brightest moments. Derek, wait, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We need to understand what this means before we let fear dictate our actions. Derek's gaze darted between us, the luminescence of the figure casting an eerie glow across his face. We can't trust this, he shouted, fighting back against the unsettling chill that wrapped around our hearts. We need to run. But then the figure's form shifted, revealing familiar features hidden beneath distorted layers. A sense of recognition lanced through me, clearing the fog of uncertainty. Don't you see? It's a reflection, Derek. It's what we're afraid to confront. The echo of our shared history reverberated painfully as if the spectral figure were dissecting our vulnerabilities, carving out memories we thought we could leave behind. Derek's father, a far-off echo of the man I had known, had whispered the words that had shaped Derek's journey. And now, as it took shape before us, it lashed out beneath the weight of family failures, betrayals, and conflicts unresolved. It's not merely the family legacies we must contend with, I continued, my heart racing even as I struggled to find the words. It's our own shadows that we've refused to face. Why now? Derek quipped, bitterness creeping into his voice, his eyes searching for a way out of this trap. Why summon us back to our failures? Jessica stepped forward, determination wrecking her fear, as she captured Derek's gaze. Because it's time, she urged, her voice steadying in a way I hadn't heard before. Time to confront what we've allowed to twist us into strangers. A flicker of hope ignited in me as I saw the facade of Derek's anger begin to crack. Perhaps he too wanted to step into the light and confront the truth hidden so painfully beneath layers of hurt. I turned to him, urgency coursing through my veins. We can either be swept away by these shadows, or we can choose to confront them together. We can find a way to break free of the curses placed upon us. But before Derek could respond, the spectral figure lunged toward him, shimmering as it reached out with grasping hands, and I felt a jolt of panic surge through me. Derek! I shouted, instinctively throwing myself between him and the apparition that clawed at our sanity. The figure faltered in its advance, paused by the momentary surge of my defiance. Why do you resist? It hissed, its voice a caustic blend of mockery and yearning. You've been living in the shadows long enough. Face what lies within you. Face him. The tension rippled through the air, transporting memories deep into my core. The soft murmur of my brother's laughter echoed above the haunting void, followed by the harsh sting of harsh criticisms, the tension between support and conditional love, wrapping around my heart tighter with each pulse. I shuddered but held my ground. You don't own us. My voice was barely a whisper, yet it held an unwavering resolve I didn't know I possessed. We are not just the sum of our family's past mistakes. Derek moved beside me, stepping into the space I had carved out for him. The weight of hesitation swirled around his feet, yet he planted them firmly on the ground. What do you want from us? He asked, an uncharacteristic softness slipping into his tone, vulnerability bathing his bravado. The figure's presence dimmed slightly, caught between the realm of unresolved history and the illumination of collective courage. I seek to show you the truth, it replied, mirroring our severity yet softening toward our earnest plea for understanding. Your family's crisis can either break you, or serve as the catalyst for healing that has been long overdue. Choose wisely. In that charged moment, hope flickered like a candle held against a howling storm. Trust and connection began to weave through the shaky threads of uncertainty, as we realized the need for clarity amidst chaos. But just then, a piercing shriek echoed through the forest, abruptly interrupting the fragile moment of connection. I spun around, eyes wide as I recognized the haunting wail. It was my mother's voice, cry trapped between time and despair. What is happening? I gasped, my heart racing. There was something deeper, an emergence of ancestral pain yet unearthed, clawing at the edges of our reality. As the wind howled angrily around us, I clenched my fists, a wave of determination washing over me. The truth was unearthing itself, daring us to confront the darkness we had neglected for too long, while binding us closer together. Derek, Jessica, I urged, feeling adrenaline surge through my veins. We need to face what has been hidden beneath and resolve the shadows in ourselves and within our family. But just as Derek opened his mouth to respond, the spectral figure erupted into a whirlwind of light, surging toward the treetops, transforming into a blinding flash. And with that, the forest erupted in chaos again. Branches snapped and the ground trembled. Each involuntary gasp echoed through the silence that followed. Clutching Derek's arm, we braced ourselves against the onslaught of emotion and reality crashing upon us, unaware of the deeper fissures that would soon reveal their hidden truths. The path ahead remained shrouded, whispering its promises and warnings alike, and uncertainties dripped from my heart like rain on stones, winding through the depths of Oswald's legacy that now demanded our attendance. With courage pulsing in my veins, I took a breath. There was no turning back. We were standing on the brink of something monumental, and an invisible force pushed us ever closer to a truth we were too scared to face. Would we be strong enough to heed the call? Or would fear root us in the past forever? The chaos of the moment crashed around us, A tempest of power and uncertainty as the spectral storm pulled Derek and Jessica deeper into its grasp. The very air crackled with tension, thick and suffocating, yet beneath it, a whisper of hope flickered like a candle in the dark and the distance. The shattered shriek of my mother's voice lingered, a haunting reminder of the familial specters we sought to confront. This was not merely a confrontation with a ghostly figure but a reckoning with the legacies we had carried, whether consciously or not, as we twisted our own identities against the backdrop of our flawed pasts. Stop! I shouted into the vortex, desperate for clarity amidst the confusion that threatened to engulf us. Please, you have to listen. For a fleeting moment the spectral storm paused, caught in a moment between malice and understanding. The treetops quivered as if responding to my cries, nature itself holding its breath in this deepening moment of reckoning. Derek flinched beside me, torn between fighting against the tide of his own scars and stepping into the light of acceptance. There's more to us than this. Jessica's voice emerged strong and melodic, slicing through the tense atmosphere like a beacon. We are not just the past. We can be more than our fears. We deserve a chance to heal. Her words hung suspended in the air, infusing the swirling chaos with a hesitant thread of possibility. The spectral figure momentarily dissolved into a flurry of shapes, flickering like a dying flame yet appearing to listen, as if our defiance seeped into the very essence of its being. But just as desperation surged within me, the storm erupted once again. A blast of cold wind swept through our gathering, sending a shiver down my spine. The ground trembled beneath our feet, and the spectral figure swelled, now a fierce gaze fixed on Derek. Are you prepared to confront what you truly are? It hissed, the rage in its voice echoing our own buried fears. To face the brother who called you a failure? The family that has always defined you by what they lack? The words hit Derek like a pummeling wave, the crumbling walls of his bravado faltering under this relentless scrutiny. Enough! He roared, his anger igniting like a wildfire through the gusts of chaos. You don't own me and you don't get to dictate my worth. Tension crackled in the air, thick with uncertainty, and I saw the raw emotions in Derek's eyes transform. Beneath the rage simmered what I recognized as a longing for connection and acceptance. It was both beautiful and heartbreaking to watch, as he wrestled with the shadows that had haunted him for far too long. Derek, I called gently, trying to bridge the chasm that threatened to swallow us whole. You don't have to carry these burdens alone. You're not defined by the failures of our past. We can break this cycle together. His gaze shifted to mine, flickering between vulnerability and rage as if realizing for the first time that our histories did not have to dictate our futures. I stretched my hand toward him, offering a lifeline amid the shattering storm. In that moment of profound clarity, he took a shuddering breath, not wholly resigned to our entrapment, but curious about the possibilities of breaking free. Can we really change? He whispered, his voice threatening to break as the pain of hope battled against years of rejection. Before I could answer, the spectral figure surged one last time, now a chaotic amalgamation of shadows and flashes of light that tethered every painful memory Derek held close. That is your choice. It lies within you. But heed my warning: if you dare confront your family's demons, prepare to face the consequences of the truths that will be unearthed. The air crackled ominously, and just as a swirling vortex reached toward us, I felt Jessica squeeze my hand. Our shared resolve solidified amidst the turmoil. Whatever it takes, Jessica whispered fiercely, echoing the mantra we had unwittingly forged together. We will face it together. Just then, a guttural voice erupted from the depths of the forest, sending a jolt through my spine. You think you can erase the past? It roared, reverberating as if the very trees quaked with its ferocity. You're merely echoes of what has come before. The legacy of failure is your inheritance. I turned abruptly, fear piercing through the fragile bond of hope as Derek's expression shifted, his face paling in the stark light of this confrontation. The storm surged again, and with it came the chilling realization that perhaps the past would not quietly dissipate. As we stood braced against the howling tempest, dark tendrils curling around our feet, I knew in my heart that to face our family's legacy was to step into a horrifying unknown. Yet beneath the waves of fear roared an undercurrent of defiance stronger than any ghostly apparition. We were standing against generations of pain, willing to sacrifice everything for the glimmer of hope that awaited us on the other side. But before I could respond, the ground beneath us shattered, a fissure ripping through reality and swallowing our countless fears and dreams whole. "Derek!" I screamed as the earth trembled, reaching out to grasp his hand. Yet in that moment of connection, his eyes widened in horror, and the realization struck that perhaps we were not the only ones summoned to confront our truths. We were not prepared for how interwoven our choice was with the fate of our origins, and then, the ground beneath us opened wide, plunging us into darkness as we fought to hold on to one another, torn between shadows and light. We could feel the shifting fabric of reality, and my heart raced with a terrifying sense of dread and exhilaration, knowing that whatever lay ahead would change everything. The darkness enveloped us as we fell, a void that seemed to stretch endlessly. Time lost its meaning in that moment. My thoughts were a cacophony of fear and confusion, shouting against the silence that wrapped around us like a suffocating shroud. As we plummeted, I caught a glimpse of Derek's terrified face, his eyes wide with uncertainty, a reflection of everything we had both faced. And then, just as abruptly, gravity released its hold on us, and we found ourselves tumbling into a world imbued with ethereal light, a stark contrast to the bleak darkness from which we had emerged. The air shimmered with a soft glow, casting an intimate yet overwhelming warmth over our forms. Derek and I landed with a hard thud on a solid ground that suddenly felt alive beneath us, pulsating like a heart. As I pushed myself up, the brilliance of the landscape enveloped us, the colors vivid and overpowering. Everything felt too pristine to be real, yet the fear that still clung to me felt achingly familiar. In the distance, I saw figures moving toward us, and with each step, the reality of our journey became clearer. Derek's hand tightened around mine, each pulse of his heart echoing the urgency of our shared mission. I glanced at him, knowing that this was not just a moment in which we could hide. This was our reckoning. The figures became clear, a procession of familiar faces from our past. Friends, family, and even those lost long ago. It was a bittersweet reunion, equally haunting and comforting. My grandmother walked at the front, her expression a blend of pride and sorrow, and I felt a jolt of recognition in the depths of my soul. Each person represented the tapestry of our family, the ugly stitches intertwined with the glittering threads of love. "Welcome," Grandma said, her voice echoing through the luminescent air as she stepped forward. "You both have made the choice to confront the truth, and here we stand, not just as remnants of the past, but as reflections of what you must face to move forward." What is this place?" Derek asked, his voice strained as he scanned the gathering faces. "It is a manifestation of everything that binds you, an intersection of all that was hidden and of all that might yet be. Here you will learn that our pain is not merely your own. It belongs to us all." Grandma's words were laced with emotion, and I could see the weight of generations lying heavy on her shoulders, anchoring her to this moment. As I looked around, an overwhelming wave of clarity washed over me. The faces that surrounded us held fragments of our shared history, parts of us that had been lost amidst arguments and misunderstandings. Each face told a story of both our victories and failures, of our desires and dreams, but above all they whispered one truth: we were not alone. Together, Grandma urged softly, "You must confront the memories that haunt you. Not as enemies but as a family. Not with anger, but with understanding." Derek clenched my hand tighter, and I could feel the fear radiating off him. "Do we really want this?" he whispered, the doubt palpable in his tone. "What if it tears us apart? Or what if it frees us?" I countered, searching his eyes for the courage I knew lay hidden within. "What if we face our past and, instead of breaking, finally build something stronger? Beyond the pain and bitterness, there is love waiting to be reclaimed." Taking a deep breath, I stepped towards the gathering of our loved ones. We need to understand what has shaped us, what imperfections turned into shadows over the years. I turned back to Derek, determination solidifying my words. "Together, we can reject the narrative that our family has pushed upon us. We can redefine it." "Then let's redefine it," he declared, a fierce spark igniting in his eyes as he stepped closer to me. "Let's see what that looks like." With those words, the crowd began to part, revealing an ever-growing tapestry woven from our very essence, glowing with warmth. Each thread sparked with sounds and flashes. I could hear the laughter, the tears, the joy and sorrow, a multitude of experiences woven together into something greater than the sum of its parts. "I have held so many regrets," Derek said, finally voicing the storm within him as he faced the collective gaze. I've resented you all for your expectations and the shadows that linger over me. But the truth is I never thought I would see how deeply we were intertwined, how interconnected our journeys have always been. As he spoke, I saw Grandma wipe and tear, the reflection of our family's history folded into the rawness of his admission. Stand within your truth, and allow your vulnerability to resonate, she encouraged, and a ripple of understanding spread. Derek took a step deeper into the collage of memories and connections, each of our loved ones surrounding him in gentle support. I felt the heat of connection igniting the emptiness that had threatened to swallow us whole. Then it hit me, a wave of memories. I took a deep breath, flooded with the essence of those who had come before us. I dipped back into my memories, recalling moments when I had felt I had failed them, moments of pride washed under waves of disappointment. I've wanted so much approval and validation, I admitted loudly, feeling 1,000 fears pouring forth. But I couldn't see that I was loved despite my shortcomings. In my struggle to rise above, I lost sight of what family really was. The tapestry glimmered in response, each thread vibrating with the acceptance of our shared truths, transforming the ancient wounds into connections that bound us together in this strange, dynamic reality. Thank you for your love, even when we could not find a way to show it, I continued, deeply stepping forward, joining Derek. Let this be a moment of healing, a chance for us to reshape how we view one another. We are not defined by our past mistakes, but rather molded by every imperfect step we take as family. As the final words escaped my lips, the figures surrounding us began to dissolve into streams of light, weaving toward an unknown path that stretched forward. But with it, there came a resounding transformation. The fear of our family's past evaporated, replaced by the warm embrace of forgiveness and understanding. I felt Derek beside me, no longer standing against a tidal wave of hurt. Instead, we were standing together, solidly united against the rushing tide. That a resounding chant echoed through the air, a chorus of love, acceptance, and a new beginning, rising like the very earth beneath us. You are enough. Always. And as those words surged into the atmosphere, the figures returned, grounding us in love. With every heartbeat, I could feel how our family history reclaimed its place through generations, strengthening our bonds, binding us in a truth I had never known, one that transcended all our fears, uniting us in an unbreakable thread of love. As we stood together, hearts open and minds free, I knew our journey was only beginning. The fear that had once gripped me loosened, allowing hope to swell in its place. And in the brightening glow of a vast horizon, I whispered with newfound strength, together we have finally come home.